Hello everyone, I'm Simon from Games on Tables, and this is another spotlight episode about the Alchemist Guild. It's the last episode about the Alchemist Guild I make in English, and the last over Alchemist in overall. And I will then change back to German. Like I said in the last video, we tried in English. It's not very different in the viewing counts, so we use our standalone feature for being German and shift back to introduce the different guilds in German, and I will make a summary video or an overview video about the Alchemist Guild in German then for all our German viewers to then get all the information they may have missed in my miserable English before. So I'm already stuttering now, but I think I will start this video with the directly ahead. I said I was going to talk about Bruisers, and as so I will. The final four models of the Alchemist Guild are the Bruiser models, of course, or Brawlers. I think Bruisers is more appropriate. And we have the access to one union model, which is apparently a couple of models. It's Everest and Greedy, who are now back to a Bruiser type. They have been, some kind of bruisers in the first season, with more the trick of the 7th activation, were then changed to a more striking, scoring composition, which was not as unfair with the 7th activation, but it was such a great threat to the goal that they still were played quite a lot, maybe all the time. And now they're back to Bruisers, and I will talk about them later, or about their changes, about their new skill sets. But first, about the Alchemist Guild. One additional note, I will talk about the guild identity cards at the end of the video. They are still in testing, but the 3 that are out, I've tested one of them and have my thoughts about the 2 others, so I will add those at the end of the video to really complete the overall look at the Alchemist Guild. So let's dive right into it. And the first bruiser I want to talk about is Catalyst. Both variants, but let's start with the older variant, which has a newer rule set actually. So Catalyst, this one has a 1-inch melee, which is quite sad, but a nice stat line. He has a decent speed of 6'8", he has a attack of 6, a kick of 2 dice 6 inches, which is okay for a big guy, quite good for a big guy. It's it's at least not 1 die, and it's the lower average, but it's okay to have. Defense 3, armor 1 is quite a usual defensive stat. It's now after some changes the most common defense stat for big guys, I think. Some have defense 2, but then have armor 2. Some have defense 3, armor 0, but 3-1 is okay for a big guy with 27 health. So that's a huge thing too. And he generates 2 influence and can gain a maximum of 4 influence, which is one of the things most of the players in my local group are complaining about, that Catalyst gives 2 influence. Even more with veteran Catalyst, but even old Catalyst providing 2 influence to the team, whilst for example, I think it was Stave, it has only 1 influence, and Brick was always with 2 influence, but some other big guys had only 1 influence too. Casket, for example. And Catalyst made this exception with generating 2 influence. So his playbook is 6 columns long, but he doesn't actually have a tech of 6 only. He has a tech of 8, and so we have a look at his traits first. He has Burning Effigy, which stands down below. While this model is suffering the burning condition, it gains +2 tag and +2/+2 movement. So burning reduces our movement by 2, but he then gains or regains his movement by 2. So he stays at his movement level of 6 inches jogging and 8 inches sprint. But he additionally gains +2 tag value, so he has a total tag value of 8. Then, to gain this burning condition, he is a pyromaniac. This model starts the game with the suffering the burning condition. During the end phase, this model suffers the burning condition. So he always gains 1 damage or suffers 1 damage every turn. But he will be on fire at the start of each turn too, so he has his benefits. He even has burning strike, so when he damages enemy models, they will suffer burning too. So yeah, after some changes, he is really a strong kind of bruiser. Looking at his playbook, he has just 1 momentous damage result on the first column, which is with Tech 8 quite accessible. But he has a momentous knockdown as a second result, which is very important for the Alchemist guild, because they have just on Midas a knockdown on the 5th column, or was it? I can look. Yes, on the 5th. So to have it on Attack Catalyst, an early knockdown, is really useful to control the enemy team just with more tools than just fire conditions. He has some momentous pushes. But the most interesting and most fun thing about him is his external combustion. His character play triggered by 2 Guild Ball icons, so with the 5th column momentous, or with the 6th column non-momentous but with an additional knockdown. And this character play, which is not once per turn, target enemy model suffers a 4-inch push directly away from this model and 3 damage. Enemy models within the pulse suffering the burning condition. So the target model, so the model you're punching with your attack, will suffer the burning through burning strike the burning condition, because he suffers 3 damage, is 4 inches or up to 4 inches pushed away from Catalyst, and you can decide at which point, because it's simultaneous in this character play, at which point you will use the pulse to spread the burning conditions to more enemy models within 2 inch around the target model. It's a 2-inch pulse, and the range is P, so the playbook results target. Yeah, and that's just an awesome play. You can charge in, and if you achieve the 5th column, 5 net hits, you can push away the opponent. You can knock with your 6 columns. You can even knock down him, but just pushing him, setting him up on fire, setting more enemies up on fire, can slow down their re-engagement. Maybe they have to sprint then if they are slower models, like for example Brewers. And especially those guys with the low defense values are easy targets to achieve those external combustions. In my very first game with the Change Catalyst, I played against a Fisherman with the Corsair lineup, and yeah, I just pushed Corsair way back right next to Angel, and set her on fire, and placed him knocked down, and yeah, had quite a fun with it. Yeah, he ignores the first push, but I got rid of that earlier in the game. A very nice addition is if you are able to achieve 7 net hits, you gain an additional momentous push on the first column. And again, as simultaneously, you can combine those with, I will push him to the side to aim where put his final destination with external combustion, to really achieve the most of this external combustion, to spread the burning condition to as many opponents as possible. And that's with maybe only 1 attack, so he can gain up to 4 influence, so he can make up to 4 attacks, and on 4 in the 4th column he has a momentous 2 damage with a double push. So he's the one guy, or one of the few guys in the Alchemist guild who really can punch people to death. Then he has Seismic Kick, which is nice for 1 influence. This model may make a kick during its activation without spending influence, so you don't pay 2 influence to make this kick, you just pay Seismic Kick. When this model makes a kick, it cannot be intercepted. All other models except the receiving model on the ball path from this kick suffer the knockdown condition. So he has only 2 dice, and models in the ball path still reduce his amounts of dice for this kick, but it's 1 die at least. Then you can bonus time for 2 dice again. Still hit on the 4+, if targeting a friendly model, or if you're shooting into the open, maybe you can reroll the direction of the scatter. But knocking down all enemy models or all models on the ball path can be situationally nice. I haven't used it that often or that much, but I think there are some situations. Additionally, if you have the plot card, giving you +2 on +2 dice on a pass when you're engaged, is quite beneficial in this situation when you want to pass through the model you're engaged by to another model. You gain this additional dice, and you can even knock down this model you're engaged with to then open up a catalyst maybe for a charge to another location. So, old catalyst, only 1-inch melee. That's a bit sad, but it's okay. Overall, a very strong player right now, I think. And suffering from the burning condition all the time is nice to have for Vitriol, since she can dodge her 2 inches away from Catalyst if he is within 2 inches of Vitriol or in her melee zone. On the other hand, he wants to burn to get his +2 attack value. If the opponent places him knocked down, then he has to get rid of knockdown either by spending his movement. That depends on, do you have opponents within your 1-inch melee zone? If not, you want to spend momentum to stand up, but you can't decide to just get rid of knockdown. You then get rid of all the conditions you have. And with that, you lose your burning condition and you lose your bonuses. So that's, like, I feel is the best way to counter Catalyst, by just getting knocked down on him and disabling him, disengaging, having knocked down, and then he nerfs himself, removing his own burning condition. Going up to the next Catalyst version, the Veteran Catalyst version. With a little help of Venom, he mutated to an uncontrollable beast with a basic tech of 8, with a move of 5-inch jog and 8-inch sprint, so 1-inch jog less, but still the same sprint, and a 2-inch melee zone. I don't know where this gets from. Maybe he has a bit longer arms, but he's overall huge and can maybe then reach out further with his meaty big fists. He loses his kick stat of 2/6, of course. He has only 1/4 now, and he has defense of 2 with still 1 armor. He still generates 2 influence, and he can only gain 2 influence. That he only can gain 2 influence lies within his Furious trait. He can charge without spending influence, so he then regains his ability to overall use effectively 4 influence. That he produces 2 influence for the team that he offers them is extremely strong. Like I said before, most of the players in my local group are complaining about this, especially when comparing it to Cena, who doesn't generate any influence, or like Buckwheat, who's coming next. Windle doesn't generate any influence, and he can't even charge for free. But on the other side, Cosset charges for free and generates 2 influence. Boa charges for free, generates 1 influence, but he only can gain 1 influence, so that's quite even again. It's strong. I can live with Catalyst generating only 1, or Veteran Catalyst generating only 1 influence, but I'm not complaining that he generates 2. He only has 1 character play, and it's the best character play an Alchemist player could have. It's Intensify. It usually costs 2, but you can trigger it with the 1 Guild Boy icon from the playbook. Any models that are suffering conditions and are within the pulse suffer 2 damage. The pulse is 3-inch, so every opponent within 3-inch of Catalyst who is suffering conditions, any conditions, it can be burning, poison, or even just knockdown or snare, will suffer 2 damage. Now he has some more traits. He has Chemical Frenzy. This model gains +1 damage to playbook damage results when targeting an enemy model suffering at least 1 condition. So, looking back at his playbook, which is 8 columns long, as expected. Most playbooks are as long as you have attack value. But he has the third column, which is very interesting, and then the sixth and the seventh column. Knockdown is on the fourth column without any momentous, so that's less effective than the first catalyst. But on the third column he has momentous 1 damage with intensify. So you only charge and attack people with conditions, otherwise you're wasting a lot of catalyst potential. He has some momentous pushes, yes, but you really want those momentous damage with intensify, because with Chemical Frenzy this momentous 1 goes up to 2 damage, and then intensify adding 2 more damage means that this third column already has a 4 damage result, which is only 2 damage against tough hide models. So models with tough hide are a really strong counter against Veteran Catalyst because they mitigate a lot of his damage output. But usually tough hide models tend to have a lower def, maybe some armor, but with his tech value of 8 and maybe 12 dice in the charge, he can achieve some more hits and generate a higher result with, on the 6th column, 2, so 3 damage and intensify, or even on the 7th column 3, which goes up to 4 damage and intensify, so a total of 6 damage, or against tough hide models 4 damage. So he's really the one guy punching people out of the game within 1 activation. He has a total of 3 attacks if you charge and then make 2 additional attacks, and if you're lucky you can achieve the 6th column several times, having an about average damage of 5 per hit, so 15 damage are possible in 1 activation. He has another trait that's deteriorating, which with a 4 in the columns, or in the brackets. At the end of this model's activation, this model suffers a stated damage. So at the end of his activation, he will suffer 4 damage every single activation. He has 29 health, so he basically has 25 health, because after his first activation he drops and he can only heal himself during his activation. Since all of his real damage results are momentous, he can charge, generate a momentous result, heal back up the damage from the last turn, and thus sustain at a decent health amount of 25, for example. But he has to use his heal to just stop deterioration, which opens him up for being focused by the opponent team and being punched out quite fast, because he has only defense 2, 1 armor, and no tough hide himself. But he has a heroic play, which comes, lowers his weakness at this point, because it's now called Witness Me, which I really appreciate. It was a glorious achievement before, now it's Witness Me. Thank you guys for doing this. It's I love Mad Max, Fury Road, and Witness Me is perfect for this one. If this model inflicts a taken out condition on an enemy model, this model may immediately suffer the taken out condition and reduce its health points to 0. The friendly team gains an additional +2 victory points. So if you see your catalyst is getting lower and lower and you can't heal him back up, so he will be taken out in a coming activation by your opponent, use him, take out one of the opponent models and take out catalyst with him. You give the opponent 2 victory points, but you gain a total of 4 victory points. And thus you're racing even faster towards the 12 victory points with only 2 goals and 1 takeout needed now. Or if you bring Catalyst back in the game and can achieve this Witness Me heroic play quite instantly again, maybe you're winning the game with 1 goal and 2 takeouts. That's quite strong. But there are some things to keep in mind. If you have the rare situation where your opponent has 10 victory points and you have 8, a normal takeout wouldn't bring you the win. Maybe the goal isn't possible right now and the opponent has the option to get the last 2 victory points in his next activation. Maybe by taking out Catalyst. If you use Catalyst in such a situation, there's not there's not a real timing charge. It was ruled in the forums that it happens simultaneously. So if you use Witness Me in this situation, both players would go up to 12 victory points, and when both players have 12 victory points at the same time, the play continues until one of the players scores victory points without the other player scoring victory points. So you can use Witness Me in these situations to stall at the game for a moment and maybe get the upper edge again. It's very rare, but you should keep it in mind. It's not that when you use Catalyst, it was the theory of some players, and use Witness Me, he gets taken out first, the opponent gets the 2 points, then he wins before you get any victory points. No, that's not the case. It's simultaneously. If you use Witness Me, both players get simultaneously their victory points, and would go up to 12 victory points each in the situation that your opponent has 10 and you have 8. So yeah, that's Veteran Catalyst. 2-inch melee, charges for free, generates 2 influence, can gain 2 influence. Really works well with a smoke lineup where you spread the conditions in turn 1 on almost the entire enemy team, making it difficult for the opponent to get rid of those conditions in time, and then charging in with Catalyst as soon as possible, as early as possible, to really dish out damage with Intensify on as many opponent players as you can. I think that Flask and Catalyst are the 2 reasons, more Catalyst or Veteran Catalyst, that the Alchemist guild are one of the very few guilds not having the access to Tooled Up. Having Tooled Up for Veteran Catalyst would be extremely insane, because it would add 2 damage to each attack, basically, because you have the damage result and you have the character play you trigger on one from one attack. With the third column you would have not only 2 damage and Intensify 2 damage, you would have 3 damage with then 3 damage from Intensify, so a total of 6 damage, which is quite insane, like I said. And I really can see why Alchemists don't have access to Tooled Up yet. Maybe that will change. I would really love if I were able to use Tooled Up with Veteran Catalyst, but I don't think so. I doubt it. But those are the 2 Catalyst variants. Now let's go on with Compound first before I go to Venom. Compound was added at the end of Season 1 or the beginning of Season 2 for both the Alchemist and the Engineers Guild, because those 2 guilds had 1 model less than the other guilds in the first season. So they gained this combined model, which is a really cool style. He has mechanical arms, he has a gas mask, has gas vials or liquid vials on his back, and he's the first goalie of the game. He has attack of 5 and a 5-column playbook. He has a speed of 5 inches / 7 inches. The kick, not very interesting, but it's 2/6. He has a defense of 3, 1 armor, 2 influence generated, 4 influence able to allocate it or to be allocated. But again, his traits are the most interesting part. He has Rush Keeper, so if he is within 4 inches of the friendly goalpost, when a model ends an advance within 6 inches of this model and this model is not engaged, this model may immediately make a charge targeting the enemy model. Rush Keeper may only be triggered once per turn. So basically he has counter charge as long as he is within 4 inches of your own goalpost. So that's a really basic stat, which is strong for a goalkeeper, because some strikers don't have out of attack dodges like acrobatics or where they go. And those strikers are, easy to punish with Rush Keeper or with Compound overall, because they have to either engage or be engaged by Compound, losing a die on their goal attempt, or if they can't move far enough to engage Compound, they have to get into goal range, which might be the same range of Rush Keeper, so they will suffer the counter charge, which then is a 9 dice attack, and a tackle on the second result with momentous and a push, or a double push on the third column, or a knockdown on the fourth column. So if the opponent tries to make a goal, he really has to calculate with compound, and his character plays doesn't make it easier. He has chemical resist, costs 1, has a range of 4 inch. Target friendly model ignores the first poison or burning condition it receives this turn, which is I used it once in all of my games, and I play compound a lot. It's very situational, and I only used it the one time I knew I would jump with smoke into a poison AoE, as such suffering a poison condition, but it was burning AoE. Poison I would have just ignored for the damage, but I think it was burning AoE because I wanted to prevent her from suffering the burning condition to slow down, so I used his influence. I usually allocate to compound to give her chemical resist to block this burning condition so she could jump into the fire AoE and then continue to walk up to the goal, for example. That was the one situation I thought this was useful, and on the most of the time I use one influence on compound to activate horrific odor. It costs 1, it's a self character play, it has a aura of 6 inches, while within this aura enemy models must pay an additional 1 influence to make a kick. This combined with Rush Keeper is a huge pressure puts huge pressure on opponent strikers, because they have to calculate not only to play around the Rush Keeper to avoid losing the ball, they additionally have to have an additional influence on them, because their goal attempt will cost 2 influence if they are within 6 inches of compound. And that makes most goal attempts sometimes impossible, sometimes very difficult. I used it in the past against Everest and Greedy when they were strikers, because they had to recalculate everything they want to achieve. Had to stay closer because Greedy couldn't have all this influence on himself, so he has to be in 6 inches of Everest to still make a goal shot, but he has to be in 6 inches of the goal back then, so it was very difficult to achieve a goal against the compound. Now Everest and Greedy changed, so that's out of the way. But it's still a very strong character play, and since he generates 2 influence and only uses 1 maximum, sometimes even he doesn't use any influence, he's just an influence battery for the team. You have more influence for the other players, like Catalyst, like Vitriol, like your captain, maybe Midas or Smoke, and open up the rest of the team even more in their potential. 2 more character traits. He has Gluttonous Mass, ignoring the first attack or character play targeting him. On a side note, it's the first successful attack or character play, so if this model is hit by an attack or character play targeting him, that attack or character play is ignored entirely. And at last he has Noxious Death. He has 20 health points, so it's quite durable, but if he goes down finally, every model within 3 inches around him will suffer 3 damage and the poison condition. So yeah, don't mess with compound. He's a very strong goalie, and nearly always in my lineup when I play Alchemist, because he's an influence battery, he keeps my goal safe against most goal attempts, and he has a 2-inch melee zone, so he can situationally go up in the middle of the field and assist or even push some enemies, generate some momentum. With his tech of 5, it's quite accessible. And yeah, he's a really, really helpful guy and a nice addition to the Alchemist guild. The last Alchemist player I consider a bruiser is Venom. He's not the bruiser who actively does or deals damage to opponents, but he's fast. He has a nice kick stat of 8 inches, but only 2 dice. The most interesting part about him is he has a defense of 4 with 1 armor, and the option with Melting Body, character play which costs no influence. This model suffers a poison condition and gains +1 armor, so he can buff himself on 4 defense, 2 armor, which is hard to play around. Most strikers will find it difficult to get the ball from him if he has it. Some players will have difficulties to get him even knocked down, because if you have the knockdown result on the 2nd or 3rd column, you respectively have to achieve 4 or 5 hits against him because of his armor of 2. And against a defense of 4, it's hard to get this many hits overall. So he is quite tanky, despite only have 16 health points without tough hide. But but he has this nice defense armor synergy. He's not that good against character plays, of course. Defense 4 is okay, but most character plays have 2 dice, and that's a 75% chance to hit him. But with 2 armor, he's very durable against attacks. His playbook on the other side is horrible. He has a momentous damage result only on the 4th column and the 5th column. He has some damage results, yes, and he, enemy model suffering damage from him will suffer the poison condition then. He has his positive fume aura, just like Calculus. If an opponent ends his activation or starts his activation or is entering this 1-inch aura of his, will suffer the poison condition. Most importantly, he has a heroic play, and he has an additional character play. The additional character play says it costs 1 influence or is triggered by a Gilboa icon, has a range of 6 inches, is once per turn. This model suffers 1 damage. The next time this model would suffer damage from a playbook damage result, target enemy model suffers the damage instead. It's a nice thing triggering from a counterattack if you achieve the 3 hits. It's combined with a dodge on this result, so you can maybe disengage, but basically you deal 1 damage to yourself, and you're saying if the opponent isn't able to get a wraparound, he cannot trigger a high damage result. He will trigger a 1 damage result going to any other opponent model you have targeted with Sacrificial Puppet, and thus preventing basically 1 attack from damaging Venom. It's only playbook damage result, not character plays, not traits, nothing else. And that narrows the targeting of usefulness, or the pool of useful situations. I rarely use it because he has to either achieve it in a counterattack or use an attack or an influence point actively, and I don't give him influence that often. He doesn't have to spend any for Melting Body, which is good, and then he stands there, he tanks, and he assists Naja. I already explained the mascots. Naja can deal additional damage and gains an additional die when she targets enemies engaged by Venom, so there's a little synergy, but Venom himself is maybe the worst Alchemist player right now. He has a really nice heroic play though. Coagulation, 3-inch pulse. Enemy models within the pulse suffering the poison condition additionally suffer the bleed condition. So he amplifies the condition play with Smoke a lot, because Smoke dishes out poison conditions by herself with her legendary, but if you play Calculus, you place Smoke poison AoE. Smoke then duplicates it, replaces it, and at the end of turn 1, 5 of 6 players, enemy players will suffer the poison condition. And then you have the conflict of Venom. You want to activate him early to activate Melting Body, but on the other side you want to activate him last, so the opponent can't shake off those bleed conditions from him anymore. That's the conflict I think makes Venom not unplayable, but very difficult to play right now. So you either have him very tanky, or you use his ability to amplify the condition damage. Situationally, the condition damage really is really strong, especially against some escorts, for example. Having them suffering poison through smoke, you don't have to hit them, then you go in, run with Venom, for example, for 8 inch, having this 3 inch pulse, adding the bleed condition without having to hit a defense of 5, for example, and then in the following turn, these models would suffer 5 damage, which is a takeout for some mascots, or even for some other players if you prepared them well enough. But it's, again, situational, and enough players have tools to play around him, to deny him, and you have to spend momentous, which is, again, the Alchemist guild is not the best guild to generate momentum, as I think. So it's very difficult to put Venom into good use. I used him in my last big league match, and yeah, I kind of regret it. So although the match was very close and was mainly screwed by dice, as were my opponent and I agreed, so I lost it at the end. But changing Venom to Compound in that game would have been so beneficial for me that I think, despite my horrible dice rolls, I could have won that. But I played with Venom. I gave him a try because I wanted to use his self-poisoning with Melting Body to accelerate Vitriol some more, because I didn't use either Catalyst variant, sorry. And it backfired. Venom just stood there, was ignored by my opponent, and was even ignored by myself most of the time, because his heroic play was too expensive for me, because I needed the few momentus I had to get the first activation in the following turns, and thus he just was standing in cover, engaging Veteran Spigot, and doing nothing else. He could have been useful right after I lost the game. If I hadn't lost the game at that moment, he maybe could have done something useful, but he didn't. So yeah, we're back again with Venom, you suck. So that's about all the Alchemist players and the Bruiser types. Bruiser is meant as going into melee, damaging opponents, pushing opponents, knock down opponents, or tanking. Just having enough health points or defense stats to soak up enemy attacks and slowing down the enemy assault on their own models. Union-wise, we have Everest and Greedy. I will give it a shot. Look, they are changed a lot. Every season they have received a change. So they might change again next year. I don't know. Overall, Everest is quite a tank. He has 20 health points. He has no armor, but a defense of 3, and he has tough height. He has a decent damaging playbook with momentous damage results, a late knockdown, which isn't the big of the problem, because he still can attach and detach Greedy. If Greedy is detached and within 1 inch of Everest, he doesn't have to engage the target anymore. He just have to be in 1 inch of Everest. Then Everest gains +1 damage on his playbook damage results, and may add a knockdown playbook result to each successful attack he makes. So he has then a momentous 2 damage and knockdown on the first column. That's strong. If Greedy is not on the pitch, if Greedy is attached, Everest gains a +2 tech bonus. So he has a tech of 7. His only play is to drop off Greedy. It's okay. He generates 2 influence, can gain 3 influence. He is with a speed of 4.7, not the fastest, but not the slowest either, so it's okay. He has a kick of 1.6, so he does not have any deal with the ball. Greedy on the other side with a tech of 4 is more of the supporting guy to Everest now. Before, Everest had singled out, now Greedy has singled out on the first result. Greedy doesn't generate any influence, but he can gain 2 influence, even if he's not on the field. That's one of his traits. His second character play is Pick Me Up. It costs 1 influence to reattach him. Dropping off is free. Reattaching him costs 1 influence. So I think he will start. Yeah, he starts deattached all the time. He still has a simultaneous activation as Everest. So you can mix up movement here, movement there, attack here, attack there, character play here, for example. Single out, Momentous on the first result is nice. He only has a kick of 1 die and 4 inches, so he totally lost his strike abilities, despite he still has a striker trait or roll down on the backside of his card. He still has a defense of 5 with no armor. A move of 3/6 is okay, since he does not really have to move that much. I think in the first turn you attach Greedy. In the later turns you will go in with Everest. Before you attack you detach Greedy. Make 1 attack with Everest, Momentous 2 damage, knockdown for example. Then make 1 attack with Greedy, applying Singled Out. And then making 2 additional attacks with Everest, with a total of then, if Greedy also engages the opponent, with a total of 8 dice and plus 1 damage against a knockdown model and only a 5 column long playbook. So he will achieve wraparounds quite easily and he will deal a lot of damage then. So yeah, they totally changed the design of Everest and Greedy again in this season, from being a huge football threat to being a huge takeout threat. Yeah, I haven't tried them yet with this new toolkit. I think they will work in an Alchemist lineup quite well. I played Decimate in my last big league game and was really happy about the choice. Decimate was a nice addition. Dealt a little bit of damage, 2 damage with every attack roundabout. Was able to thread the ball, to get the ball, to move the ball. And speed up my total game. So I had a quite fast lineup. It was very funny or fun to play. But I might have a try with Everest and Greedy soon, because they add those takeout potential. And if you add Veteran Catalyst, for example, you can prepare with Everest and Greed, someone putting him knocked down, damaging him, and then have Catalyst charge in, use Witness Me, and just crush the opponent from the field, taking your Everest out, your Catalyst out too, achieving 4 victory points, and then maybe the opponent is close to the edge with 1 model, having Everest and Greed, go over there, prepare the next model, Catalyst comes in and kills the next model, and just you only have to do it 3 times and you win the game. So that could be a lot of fun, I think. I will have a try with this very soon, I think. So yeah, that's Everest and Greed, a nice addition to all guilds except the farmers. I'm not sure about the blacksmith, if they are able to get any union models. I don't think so. It might be. I don't think they have any union models available to them. But all the older guilds can play Everest and Greedy, and I think for most of them, they are still a huge addition when going for takeouts. Still very strong. So that's all about the different players. This episode was some kind of messy. I apologize for that. But I think the overall concept will be clear. So Bruisers are more the kind of going into melee, like I said earlier, messing with the opponent, dealing damage or pushing him or knockdown, soaking up damage, slowing the opponent down, really, yeah, creating a defending line for your other players to play around or to throw AoEs from behind, and slowing down the game to some extent, and achieving takeouts to the other, and with that speeding up your own victory point generation and speeding up the game again. So situationally you can slow down or speed up the game as you like, and as such controlling the game overall. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I will talk about the guild identity cards. There are 3 for each guild, and the 3 for the Alchemist guild are very different to each other. Keep in mind that the average healing rate now is 3, not 4 anymore. So usually you could heal 4 health points with Take a Breather or a Common Mate. Now it depends on the guild identity card. The first guild identity card for Alchemist is Lead to Gold. Once per turn, when a friendly team has at least 2 ongoing effect AoEs on the pitch and a friendly model scores a goal, the friendly team gains +1 additional victory point. You have a healing rate of only 2, so it's more for a fast-paced football lineup. Scoring 2 goals and 1 takeout, for example. The problem is, every guild has access to 1 guild identity card generating an additional victory point. It's only once per turn, and every other guild has a more beneficial victory point generation because it's applied to either takeouts or, as official guild, to not scoring a goal. The Alchemist, I don't get the point of +1 victory point when scoring a goal. You don't change it so you have only shoot 2 goals to make the win. You still have to go either for 3 goals or 2 goals, 1 takeout. Without Veteran Catalyst you would have to do 2 goals, 2 takeouts. Okay, then lead to goal is good, but you have to apply it. And if you play a football heavy lineup, you tend to have Midas. And of course Vitriol. So Vitriol can place an AoE, Midas can't. So you have to play either Harry or Mist or Mercury or Calculus to place another AoE. And you have to have both AoEs on the field before scoring the goal. But I usually either score at the beginning of a turn or at the end of a turn. At the end of a turn, okay, it's fine, you can have those 2 ongoing effect AoEs out on the pitch. At the beginning of the turn, it's not that likely that you have 2 AoEs on the pitch. So I think that's the weakest of the 3 guild identity cards, because it's very situational and it's rarely is of a really benefit to have this additional victory point. With either you go 2-1 with Veteran Catalyst, so 2 goals, 1 takeout, or you go for the 3 goals to win the game. Lead to goal doesn't change a lot there, I think. The next one is more interesting for even a scoring lineup, I think. Chemical Resistance. When a friendly guild model suffers condition damage, reduce the damage suffered by -1. So that's quite a strange style of writing it. Reducing by -1 doesn't mean he gains it. Is -1. It's just reducing by 1 overall. So you reduce the total damage you receive from conditions, and you have a healing rate of 4, so an above average healing rate now. And reducing the damage dealt by conditions is nice for Catalyst, the older Catalyst, who then won't receive any damage anymore from his own burning condition. You could play Venom, who then will suffer only 1 damage from his own poison. You could play Crucible some more, who tends to have some conditions on herself to spread them out to opponents, and thus she can reduce the damage she takes herself. And of course, it's a nice card to play against an opposing Alchemist team or an opposing Mortician's team, for example, who use sometimes bleed or fire themselves with silence or with graves, or against butchers who have bleed all the time. So Chemical Resistance is more the defensive style with a healing rate of 4. It's really nice to have for a football lineup, for example, because the football lineups can use old Catalyst quite a lot in their teams, especially with Vitriol. I think that's a cool card. I like that style. But since I'm more the smoke player, I really want to watch the world burn. Not only the title is good, and I'm a huge fan of the Alchemist and the Joker from the DC universe, so I definitely want to watch the world burn. The effect is even better. Enemy models suffering one or more conditions which take damage in the maintenance phase suffer an additional +1 condition damage. It's a healing rate of 3, so the average healing rate, but this +1 condition damage is extremely useful in the smoke lineup. When I play smoke, I mostly use poison only when I want to go for damage, or fire only if I want to play with some more football. With poison only, you have 2 damage. Then you have, with this Guild Identity card, 3 damage per turn. Most opponents now only heal 3 with their cards, some guilds even less. And adding Crucible in this lineup, and thus making it more difficult for the opponent to clear those conditions, really is a slow ticking time bomb for the opponent. I had a test game with it, and in turn 3, I think it was 4 enemy models who collapsed from this condition damage were so low I just had to punch everyone once to take them out. It was hilarious. Watch the World Burn is a very strong card to play if you want to go for takeouts. I tested it with Veteran Catalyst because I was afraid that the healing rate of 3 would make him weaker because his deterioration, or what was it called? Deteriorating. His deteriorating damages himself by 4, and he can only heal 3, so he will drop down slowly. But again, with his Witness Me, it's not that big of a deal. You just charge in, Witness Me, take him out yourself, and get some more victory points from it. And yeah, I really like Watch the World Burn as a Guild Identity card. And yeah, especially with a smoke lineup, you put so much pressure on the opponent team. Yeah, having 5 enemy models at the end of turn 1 suffering the poison condition, or even 6 if you're lucky, then all of them will gain 3 damage in the following turn. And it's hard in the second turn to achieve enough momentum to get rid of those conditions if Crucible is around. So give it a try. Watch the World Burn is, I think, the strongest of the 3 Guild Identity cards. But you have to play appropriate lineup, appropriate team to use it. While Midas is more the chemical resistance guy, I think. Midas, Catalyst with Vitriol, with then Crucible maybe, and Compound. Just having the higher heal rate, reducing the damage you deal with conditions to yourself, and going for most goals is, I think, more the Midas playstyle with chemical resistance then. So yeah, that concludes the Alchemist Guild from my point of view. I still really like this guild. Despite the changes that were made to Midas and Vitriol. Vitriol, I like a lot the changes. She's very focused now on scoring, not this all-around Joker who can score a goal next turn. She takes out an enemy model, then she scores a goal again. It was just too insane. And since she now has a synergy with conditions, she feels like an Alchemist player at last. Midas, I'm a bit sad about. I didn't play Midas a lot because it wasn't the playstyle I liked. I'm not a huge fan of these superstar captains who gain all the influence they can stack up and go ham in one activation. And now that he's nerfed, he isn't even that effective anymore in these activations. So he was extremely strong before, I agree, but I think they could have left him some of his tools. So getting rid of super shot, okay, but at least give him a fourth kick die, like they did with Flint, or leaving him his light-footed, for example, so he could ignore rough ground. But if you want to say, okay, that was too strong, get rid of that, then maybe leave him his armor on his heroic. But getting rid of all three and changing his playbook, I think was extremely strong. And not strong, it was it was a huge nerf to him. And now I will play Smoke even more, so I'm fine with that. I like Smoke, but I hoped for more diversity and more options inside this guild, and currently for me it's almost Smoke only. But besides the captains, you have a lot of options in this guild available. You have both Catalyst variants who are both very good. You have Vitriol, you have Crucible, which who I really like in this game. She's difficult to put to good use, but in a Smoke lineup she's absolutely worth a lot. Compound, always a nice choice. Calculus for damaging, Mercury for controlling. Both nice additions. Really, the only player I don't like is Venom. I like his model. I like his story. I don't like his rules. Just rework him, and I'm happy. So overall, I really like the Alchemist guild. I'm happy to have this guild as my first and main guild. I'm looking for the Farmers Guild now, but they feel a bit overpowered with Thresher, but I will always have the Alchemist Guild in my heart as my main guild. And yeah, with that, I thank you guys for watching. If you're internationally, or if you're an international viewer, if you're viewing this in English and appreciated that I made this in English, despite my horrible language, then I really thank you for your support. Maybe you want to write something down in the comments. So this was my last English episode for now for Guild Ball. I don't know if I resume to English later. Maybe next year sometime. I will make an English video every now and then, I think. Maybe about the SteamCon if I can manage to go there. Not quite sure right now with my calendar. But I will go back to German for now and go through the different guilds then, guild by guild, supporting our German community and Austria and Switzerland and who else is watching our videos in German language and supporting us. So thanks a lot all you guys for watching, thanks a lot for your support, and then I will continue in the future videos with German. So yeah. Thank you for understanding. And is there anything else I can say? I don't think so. So I just have to thank you again and see you next time. Bye bye.